Here we are with Mia Chong. She's a choreographer, dancer, and artist. And she's also the founder of, as you can see, 8 Moves, this a very new dance company dedicated to breaking boundaries and creating unity through movement. So Mia, welcome to this program about empowering and providing real advice for prospective artists.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
And we're here also with her dad, her supportive dad, Frank Chong. Frank has been a 30-year college administrator, just recently retired, but he has claim to fame and been with Oakland's Laney College, with Santa Clara's Mission College, and just completed his tenure as the the president for Santa Rosa Junior College. So congratulations on your esteemed tenure, Frank.
Thank you. Good to be with you, Leianne, always.
Excellent. Well, we're going to get started and learn a little bit more about Mia. And Mia, I'd like to understand what inspired you to become an artist, and was there a certain time that you knew that you wanted to be an artist?
Yeah, I think as kids, my sister and I both got to try a bunch of different sort of like extracurricular activities. Like I did singing, we did rock climbing, we did a bunch of sports, and I think dance was sort of the thing that just really stuck. It was the thing that I always, wanted to do, and I never got tired of it. And I think it was the constant sort of challenge that dance offers that really kept me engaged as a kid. And then I think when I got older, I saw that it could really lead to a professional career, and I got more invested in the kind of self-expression part of dance, which then led to my choreography career. So it's all been pretty intertwined, and I think I just had an interest in movement early on.
Excellent. So how old were you when you started dance?
I think I took my first ballet class or creative movement class at 3 or 5. So I was really, really young. And I don't know if you could really call it dance when you're just kind of running around the studio, but I felt that it was dance because there was music and movement, and I just enjoyed being in that setting.
Excellent. Now you have a really impressive college and education. In fact, you're going for your master's right now in arts administration. Can you talk about how important education is with your dance career?
Yeah, I think education has been, my dance career has felt like there are ups and downs, but education has always been the consistent thing. I did my bachelor's at NYU throughout the bulk of my professional dance career. So as I was, performing and touring, around the nation, I was also doing my online classes. And, I think that really helped me maintain a healthy balance, with my art and with my education. And the same thing with my master's, being able to pursue my master's while creating my company. The two have really just, went hand in hand. I feel like I wouldn't have been able to found the company without a lot of the information that I was able to get from my master's program. So I think there can sometimes be this idea that it's art or school, and for me it's always been both, and they really do feed each other and help each other. So I didn't really have to pick. I always wanted both in my life.
And did you take a lot of dance at NYU as well as outside?
Yeah, I first started at NYU in the Tisch dance program, and then as my sort of career shifted and my interests shifted, I ended up doing my bachelor's in social sciences with the concentration in organizational behavior and change, because I think, I started dancing professionally in a company, and I wanted to direct my studies more towards something that would have to do with leadership, because it was something that I was becoming more and more interested in.
Interesting. What do you think when you go through this? What is their misconceptions of being an artist? What kind of things that would you like to set straight?
I think that there can sometimes be an idea that being an artist is sort of bunch of fun because, you know, it has to do with self-expression. And I do think there are so many like moments of joy and, fulfillment that I've had in my like artistic career, but I think it's also a lot of hard work. And I think, if you haven't been a practicing artist or haven't been like the parent of a practicing artist, I don't think a lot of people know how much sort of like labor goes into it. There's a lot of training and preparation for any sort of artist and so much practice that then leads to like, you know, the one moment of performance or the one moment, of where it all culminates, into the end product. And I think, yeah, while there is a lot of joy in it, it's also a lot of hard work. So, yeah.
So there are no shortcuts to get to where you need to go?
I don't think so. I think hard work's the way.
Excellent. Can you talk about some of the challenges that you faced and anything that, you know, how you approached it and when you thought about giving up and when you actually sort of came back to it?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges for any artist is there are very few opportunities for like the number of talented people that are out there, and I think there are even less opportunities for AAPI artists. And especially it can be really competitive for women in the arts. And I think being an Asian American woman, it, you know, has, not always been easy, but I think the thing that has kept me motivated, has really been, I think just like the moments, where I've known that I had some sort of impact on someone with either like my performances or the work that I've made. Even if like one person says something to you like, oh, I really enjoyed that, or like I identified with what you were talking about with your choreography, like that's sort of something that really keeps me going, because I think if you can reach out and touch someone with your art, then you're doing something right, even if it starts small, you know. And I think when I've had those challenging times, it really does help me to like lean on my parents and, you know, talk to my mentors and really like go to my elders who have the wisdom and experience. And I feel like anytime I talk to sort of my mentors or my parents, they really like point out that like this is like a little blip in like your longer story, whatever the challenge might be. So, you know, it's a big world. There's lots of time.
Thank you. When I looked at your website, it's miajchong.com. There is such a wealth of different dance, solo, duets, and as a group. And I was just astounded by this one piece called Unspoken. It was
Oh.
beautiful, and it was almost like it won along the way. It was stunning, quite stunning. So thank you for sharing that. And I encourage other people to look at her website and to see the body of work that Mia's done in choreography and as dance and as an educator. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to like shout out the choreographer Dexandro Montalvo, who was one of my mentors that I was sort of speaking about, who has always given me a lot of great advice over the years on how to just, you know, put my head down and keep going. And he choreographed that piece, and the filmmaker who directed that film also directed a film that I choreographed for 8 Moves. So, you know, these little projects end up, you know, being like lifelong friendships and creative partnerships in down the road. So, you know, it's a very close-knit community. I'm really grateful for it. So thank you for checking that out.
Congratulations on that. I'm going to ask a tough question about financial aspects of being an artist. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, I feel like I have been pretty fortunate. Like one of my first jobs as a dancer was with a full-time company, and, you know, I think they provided like health insurance and a pretty like stable salary, and that's very uncommon in the dance world, unfortunately. So I think as a artist, I always, or as an artist in a position of leadership, I always try to work within my means, just from a practical standpoint. Like I don't choreograph a work unless I have the funds to pay the dancers, just because that's like I feel that that's my responsibility and that's the standard I would like to set for the company that I'm running. And, you know, there's lots of work to be done with paying dancers fairly. And I think, you know, the arts tends to be an underfunded space, especially dance. So that is just sort of a reality of stepping into this field. But I think I have been really fortunate, and I think, really learning how to fundraise, really learning how to gather my community, because, you know, I think I've realized that people can support your work in a variety of ways, and it's not always monetary. Like, the number of people who have shown up to my events and offered to volunteer with their help, or then even people just coming and watching my work is valuable to me. And I think, yeah, it's a tough industry, and I do think we're on the brink of change, but I think post-COVID, all of the arts are feeling the hit a little bit. I think it's just about being realistic with your finances and not working beyond your means.
Thank you. Now, along your journey, can you talk about the role that your parents have played as far as encouraging you? Did they say certain things that really made a difference along your artistic journey?
Yeah, I think, again, I've been really lucky because my parents were both really supportive about me being an artist, and I know that's not always the case for parents of children entering the arts, because it is sort of it can be an unstable lifestyle. But I think my parents really, I feel like they really encouraged me to go for it, and if I was going to commit to a life in the arts, that I should do everything possible to succeed in the way that I define success. So I think they really supported so much of my early training and have supported my professional career. And, you know, it starts with like driving me every single day after school to go to dance classes, and then, you know, flying across the country to come see my performances. And, you know, the dedication from my parents was definitely really there. And I think it made a difference because they didn't ever like tell me that I needed to like be the best, but they just said like, do your best. Like, whatever you're going to do, always try to do your best.
Interesting. Thank you. And Frank, how do you respond to that? How do you respond to what were you thinking, and how, when Mia expressed her desire to go into dance a little bit further, what kind of mindset were you in, and what did you have to do to make sure that she was happy and successful?
Well, Leianne, I think all parents want their kids to be happy and successful, right? So how do you define success? I feel like my generation, and kind of like yours and my generation, had opportunities that our parents didn't have, right? So then we start looking at our kids who haven't, you know, where do you have dancers, and artists and, people in the arts? Where is our face shown? So everybody who knows me knows that I've been very much involved in the political arena and making sure there's representation on the political level, but also in the arts. I've always been a great music lover. Mia's taught me a love of dance now, and so that wasn't always the case, you know. So I saw a gift in her, and I thought it would be worthwhile to support. But we still have that kind of Chinese work ethic, and you got to get a job that's going to be able to sustain you, because that's just how our parents were. When I told my parents I wanted to become a social worker, they said, there's no money in social work, you know, and I told them I wanted to major in Asian American studies. What kind of job are you going to get with Asian American studies? Well, I became a college president. So I see the same thing for Mia, is she's breaking new ground, and trying to, provide representation and visibility where we've been invisible, and not just on the stage, but behind the curtains where a lot of the creative part is done. I've kind of learned to appreciate how few opportunities there are for people of color and women of color and Asian women to have artistic control over their work, and that is just so important. So it's just like, you know, actors like Bruce Lee. You know, he was so important because he was a visionary, and he had control, not only with his martial arts on stage, but behind the lens, he produced and directed. So that always inspired me to say, if Bruce Lee can do it, why can't Mia Chong do it?
Wow, that's impressive. Thank you so much, Frank. I think Asian American representation and seeing yourself and seeing oneself on the stage. You know, Mia, did you have any role models on that side?
Yeah, I think I was really fortunate to grow up seeing a lot of Asian American dancers on stage in both the sort of ballet realm and the contemporary and modern dance realm, and then even more so in like the hip hop like sort of genre when I like got older. And I think someone who has been a big like mentor to me, and we danced together professionally is a dancer named Daniel Santos. He was one of the dancers that really made me want to pursue a career, like a professional career in the arts. And when I saw him on stage, he's, you know, a shorter Asian man among, you know, tall Caucasian people, and it was just he just like stood out in you know, the best ways. Like his talents were just undeniable, and he's still a good friend of mine today, so he gives me a lot of great advice about how to continue paving the way.
That's excellent. So, for both of you, I'm wondering what advice you would give to prospective artists. You know, what is them and their parents? How would you? What are the top things that they should keep in mind?
I'll start. I always tell Mia that, you know, a lot of skills that she learns in the dance world are transferable to if she chooses to go into other nonprofit organizations or art organizations, and that there's no substitute for hard work ethic, which is something my parents taught me and I try to pass on to my daughters. And both Mia and Sophie I consider to be very successful and really mutters and grinders and really want to work until it gets done. And so I really feel really proud about that. And to parents, I would say, you know, let your children follow their dreams. And if they, you know, want to succeed or fail on their own terms, they can do that. But if you try to step in there and step on their dreams or try to push them in a direction that they're not really want to go, that's ill-advised, because it's just going to cause resentment and not a good relationship with your children. But at the same time, you have to be honest with them too. If they ask you, you know, what are the likelihood of me being financially successful in the field I choose, I will be honest with them and say, it's like NBA basketball players, except even the best modern dancers don't make what the last player on an NBA bench makes, right? It's just it's not equitable, but life isn't fair. But if you choose to go that route, we'll try to support you. But at some point, you're going to have to make it on your own financially. And that's what I've told Mia. I'll help her as long as I can. But at some point, I won't be able to do that. And I won't be here forever either. So it's like you have to stand on your own 2 feet and be able to make it on your own.
Thank you. And Mia, to you?
Yeah, I feel like sort of related to that. This might sound kind of cynical, but I think anyone pursuing a career in the arts, you have to be okay failing, and you have to be okay doing things that are uncomfortable or new to you. Like you have to, I've learned that I've had to continuously sort of challenge myself or seek challenges in order to like sort of continue to evolve and grow, because I think the arts and the world are evolving like as we're living, and if our art remains stagnant, we're not really representing what people are feeling or going through. So I think you have to be comfortable with challenges and change. And I when I say failure, I mean I think this is a field with some rejection. I think even the best artists out there have heard no before and stuff. And I think I've just learned that those moments are teaching me just as much as like the victories where I get a yes. So I think you have to be okay being like brave every single day. trying new things and going places that you are not familiar with and are not home to you. But I think that's the beautiful thing about the craft, is that it continues to create new scenarios where you can grow.
Well, that's beautiful. Thank you. Could you talk a little bit about the sacrifices that you might have had to deal with in pursuing this career, Mia?
Yeah, I think this is always a hard thing for me to address, because like I don't really feel that I gave up anything major to do what I wanted to do, because it's really what I wanted. Dance is really what I wanted to spend my time doing. But I think that there is also sometimes this idea for some people that, you give up like a social life because you spend, 4 to 6 hours after school doing dance or doing your arts extracurricular. And like, I think there's like, an idea that you give up a social life, but my social life was at dance, the friendships that I had with the people I was training with are long lasting. And, I think the dance community is a really special place, and, those are where my friends are, or at least they were when I was growing up. And I think there's something really great about having, peers that are also interested in the same thing that you're interested in. But I know for, some of the people that I was like kind of growing up with, giving up some social things, it was hard for them, and, committing that much time to like art is not for everyone. So, but it was not that difficult for me, because I, was just kind of like a dance nerd. Like I just always wanted to spend time doing that. So it was not that hard for me, but I see that is a thing for people. But as I got older, and went to, summer intensives and, like the BFA program at Tisch and stuff, those are settings where it's really set up for you to have everything, academic, social life, arts, training, all of it. So those were the right settings for me.
Well, that's beautiful. It sounds like, I know nothing happens by accident. And is there any advice you'd provide in how someone would approach being an artist in their particular area? So, did you have a certain way to balance that out? It was interesting when you were talking about how you melded education and your dance together. And your trajectory really seems like it was just a real constant upward movement, but I know it doesn't happen that like, accidentally. Like you definitely had to do a lot of either research or gathering information in multiple ways to make sure that trajectory did go in that way.
I think talking to people who were going through it or had already been through it, like asking people who I knew who had gone to a summer program that I was interested in, like what does it take to get into that program and what was it like when you went? Same thing with like colleges and later with companies. I think communicating and not being afraid to ask questions to sort of like experts above you. I've found that most of the people who were sort of ahead of me on the path were always really like happy to talk about their experiences and really happy to share their wisdom and super generous with their advice to me. So I think seeking out advice really, really helped me gather information on what was going to be like, the right program or the right sort of path for me. So lots of talking to the right people.
Now, in regard, I would imagine some of your classmates have some helicopter parents possibly around, and I'm wondering, was your dad a helicopter parent, or did he provide just the right amount of guidance at the right time?
I would not categorize my parents as helicopter parents at all, especially not my dad. I think, as like he sort of mentioned, dance was not always the thing that he was the most engaged with. There were, lots of early recitals where, he kind of drifted off to sleep, and that's okay because that just wasn't his thing. But I think Yeah, I think growing up, every now and then you run into people whose parents are super hands-on with their careers and are really wanting a certain outcome. I think that's the thing that my parents always really stressed, is that it was more about the experience than the outcome. It's like, if you work really hard right now, then you can experience, the great performance or the, great opportunities that it will provide, but it's not just about, like getting something. It's not about like a trophy or a award or anything like that. It's about working on something so that actually you can give something. Hopefully you can give a great performance. You can have an experience that you can share with other people. So I think, yeah, you always run into people along the way that have really, maybe kind of intense parents stuff, but that's just their way of doing it.
Frank, can you comment on that experience?
Well, I grew up playing basketball and now golf, and I've always been considered competitive, right? So, when you always want your kids to prevail or to win, but it's a little different when you're especially later in their dance career, when you're not doing these competitive things. It's actually quite, I think, advantageous to be part of a collaborative and watching them work to do a performance. And I think that's mirrors what you see in the workplace, healthy workplaces where people are respectful. You're working with a diverse group of people. You're trying to problem solve. You're trying to use your creativity and imagination. And that's what, I've always studied leadership in great organizations and try to use that formula at the colleges and at the nonprofits I worked at. How do you create that kind of sweet spot where everybody's really moving in the same direction and simpatico? And that's, to me, as I learned more about dance, a lot of it was developing the right chemistry and the right direction between the choreographer, the dancers, the music, the lighting. There's a lot to it that you don't see when you watch and sit in the audience.
I would just add that as my parent, I think my dad always tried to remind me that, dance, or the way that I was interacting with dance, it was not an individual sport. It was more of a team sport, even growing up. So teaching me kindness and empathy for the people that I was dancing with, instead of competitiveness. I think the competition for me was more what about your personal best. So I think, that has influenced how I run my company today. Sort of what he was saying is it's super collaborative and definitely a team effort. So that mentality started pretty young.
Oh, that's a beautiful addition. Thank you, Mia. So Frank, if you see helicopter parents, which I know you have over the number of years, how does someone identify themselves to pull back? What advice would you tell them?
You have to trust your child to fail. It's enough pressure for children to perform, whether it's on a soccer field or on a dance floor, that you don't need to add any more pressure to them. And then part of it is the word joy. Don't take the fun and joy out of it, right? You don't want to live vicariously through your children, You need to let them be themselves, and you need to let them fail on their own and to succeed on their own, and not again try to live through them what you had hoped for, maybe in your own dance career or your own basketball career. So it's as simple as that, Let them be, let them have fun, let them experience joy. And believe me, there's no joy in a parent hovering over their child and pointing out to them in front of their peers. It's terribly embarrassing, and it's going to take the joy out of the whole exercise. Yeah.
Thank you, Frank. I know as parents, we always want to do the best for our kids, and we try our best, but sometimes it can come out in many different ways. So Mia, can you tell us a little bit about your new project and your company?
I recently founded a dance company called 8 Moves, and 8 Moves was created because I wanted to bring more opportunities to AAPI, BIPOC, and other marginalized artists. We are gathering a really diverse group of choreographers and dancers to put together our first live shows that are happening this summer, August 16th through 18th in San Francisco at Z Space. This is our first self-produced show, although we had a launch party event, which was more of a community gathering to premiere our film. This is our first fully produced repertory show, with 3 world premiere pieces that are co-choreographed by me. So I'm really excited, and I think, it's really just like having this conversation today, thinking about like the journey to become an artist. Like I'm still becoming an artist and a leader. I'm learning a lot through running this company, and I'm excited to just kind of see what it's like to put these ideas into action and see how it resonates with the community.
Beautiful. Thank you. And Frank, seeing Mia create this beautiful art, what is your take on this right now?
I'm extremely proud of her, and it's she puts the time in, and she's got great ideas, and I think she's also a very good talent identifier. She identifies people who can help her with the operations, help her with lighting, help her with put together a board of directors, of which we still have holding a seat open for you, Leianne. And nothing's free. So I feel really good. I think what she was saying earlier about her master's degree program, at Northeastern, that she's been doing, it's been great applied, theory. She's had to learn how to fundraise. She's had to learn how to organize and produce an event. She's had to learn all the skill sets that you need to do to operate. And then, of course, one of the most challenging things is the personnel, is HR, right? Human resources. And dancers are known to be egotistical, individualistic, and very, different. And Mia, being a dancer, can know what that takes to sort of manage that kind of personality and that personality sets to get people going together. So, I think that's the most important thing, is the culture that I think her bringing the API culture of collaboration, kind of a more of a flatter organizational structure, people carrying their own responsibilities and being able to lean on each other. That's something I really enjoy watching, rather than just more hierarchical structure that I have witnessed in some of the dance of more Western folks. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Mia, can you talk about the experience of being an Asian American dancer?
I think when I became a professional dancer, although there was some diversity present in the spaces that I was in, there wasn't a huge amount of like AAPI representation in the dance spaces that I was just working in. And I think not just in terms of performers, but also like kind of like what my dad was saying, I noticed that there's not a lot of BIPOC or AAPI arts leaders. And I think that's something that I always noticed and had a desire to change. That even though I've been provided like a lot of amazing opportunities, I do think, as an Asian dancer, you run into, whether it's an accident or whether it's intentional, you run into things like typecasting and limitations being set upon what you are expected to do or how you're expected to act, and what you're expected to bring to the space. And I think that was a big motivation for me to create my own company, to gather marginalized artists and see what we could do without those limitations. And I think my dad, it's interesting that he's talking about like the ego of artists, because I really just haven't experienced that with the group that I've gathered. And I think, maybe there's something to say about working with marginalized artists who are not always, the loudest voice in the room and are not always the center of every moment. I really am interested in working more with this group because they're so focused on the greater good and like the collective mindset and our common goal. But yeah, it definitely came from some challenges that I faced as a professional dancer. And I think it's tough to talk about because, I recognize now that like a lot of people did not mean to put me in these uncomfortable positions or did not mean to impose these things on me. But, the reality is the reality. And, I think another part of what I'm trying to do with the company is, not lean away from these uncomfortable conversations and really like engage with kindness and empathy and in the process of educating others, because I think cutting off conversations and not wanting to talk about why it's hurtful or wrong is kind of a loss for everyone. So I do try to outreach to people who are not from the BIPOC or AAPI community and work with them to get to a place where we can all sort of understand like what the right way to move forward is together. So I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. It's almost like creating allies through education and sharing.
Yeah, definitely. Cause that's a huge part of what I want to do is, not just celebrate our community, but make it inclusive to others so that they feel like they're also able to celebrate us and learn something and hopefully walk out with a different mindset.
Thank you so much. Frank, do you want to add anything to that?
No?
That's good. Yeah, I'm so encouraged, and then you give me hope because you're creating the vision that you see, the vision that you want with all inclusiveness and unity coming together. And I just commend you for having the perseverance to do that and seeing it through while not resting on your laurels, but keeping your challenges going and making yourself a better person in doing so. It's very impressive.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you so much both for your time. Your perspectives have been so enriching, and I think it'll help a lot of people understand and reflect upon themselves possibly and get to a point where we have very focused artists going into it with open eyes. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to see like what the other artists that you talk to and stuff, like what they have to say and their parents and stuff, because, it's not an easy path, but I hope that these conversations like encourage parents and artists, to go for it, because there are ways to make it work and stuff. So this is really great that you've set up conversations like this.
Yeah, and I think the timing is great, Leianne, because you're looking at movies in the film industry more recently, and in the music industry, you're seeing more, Broadway stars, API. So why not dance too, right? So I think this is a great opportunity for our generation to continue to support companies like 8 Moves, and not to forget August 16th, 17th, and 18th is the premiere at the Z Theater, and you can always get more information at 8moves.org. And really appreciate all the advice you've been giving us along the way as we start this exciting journey. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much. This has been fabulous.
Thank you to Cats for having a container for us to talk about this in. Cool.
Okay.
Great. Thanks, Lee. Take
okay.
care.
All right. Talk soon.
Thank
Bye.
you.